So good morning. Today is February 13th in 2021. And what should we think about what's going on after the witnessing of the insurrection at the Capitol? And to understand there were senators involved in the planning of the overthrow of our government. Perhaps maybe they don't want to admit it, but this dual representation is going to be no more. I talk about public education so much simply because we should all understand that our responsibility is for the maintenance of effort for the tax dollars and the investment in the American public service sector, as the socialism aspect comes from social services. And we do have a country that only provides human services. And we duplicate that every town, city, state, county in the nation, because we are operating under a republic which dollars just flow into local communities from tax dollars that we all pay. And so let's not pretend that poor people don't pay, because poor people do pay taxes. So here we are. This is 2021. And yes, Senator, this is 2021. What does it look like in America? I'm going to pause recording, see if I change the camera. Okay, now I was just talking about America and the public education system. What should we really be thinking about right now after we all witness the very public insurrection at the Capitol? And because it was such a public process in which people truly were, we got to see that there were people that were rallying to ensure that America was not a one country, not one nation under God, but in all actuality, two nations. So some people were working for one thing and the other people were working, on the other hand, for something else. And we got to really see that they thought that that was a way that they could take over our government. And no, that's not how it works. That's not how it works. No, no, no. So my thing here, when I'm talking about when I had the opportunity to share my concerns with failed services across this nation for African American people, was that actually we don't have the opportunity as Americans to just basically participate in the outcomes and the maintenance of effort and the investment. And truly, there's been a lack of investment for the Black community as the dollars continue to flow, but then the people who are doing the work are not held accountable. Isn't that amazing? There's zero accountability there. And because we are not providing our own services, the people who are providing services to us don't want any accountability. It's just zero. And that just amazes me. That I would see legislation that they don't want to count any of the MOE, this maintenance of effort, for the investment of the children who are in poverty. So actually, in all actuality, I'm telling you, the problem exists. And how do we change America if we are unwilling to stand up? So the stand up quality, what should be happening? What does leveling up look like? Well, I can just tell you, I've been paying taxes all your life, because death and taxes are something that are guaranteed. Perhaps you should understand how those dollars are actually just being allocated and spent in your local community, because all the money comes back and the representation is you, boo. What happened? This is 2021. And I am 62, and I can say most people my age, in my age group, that grew up in Sacramento, California. But just understand, let's not tie ourselves down to local communities. Let's just tie ourselves down to the nation, because we need to look at the maintenance of effort for public services across this nation. And that's a real deal. So in America, in 2021, where's your voice? Because every person, every American pays taxes. And if they don't, every American is receiving services from the allocated services that are provided in the local community. So what are we really talking about? We're talking about America in 2021. We're talking about what we witnessed from representatives that perhaps were not representing the services that you and that would apply to you as an individual. And that's real. So what happens? What's happened over time in America for public education? And really, where's our conversation? Excuse me. Because that's what we don't see. We see that 2021 happened and that COVID hit. And after COVID, the conversations about who's really not having any access in public services, because it really had gotten down to the basics, the young people, their opportunities being stolen from people who have set themselves up in jobs that are very lucrative as they provide human services for the people who look like you. And the real deal is that we, the American people, we do not need to continue to support programs and people who are providing services out of our tax dollars that we're denied access. I mean, it's this illusion of inclusion that looks like football, NFL, basketball, looks like entertainers, song, dance, whatever. We have arrived. We have doctors. We have lawyers. I mean, I don't believe that there's any facet in America in which Black people have not arrived, except for the number one thing, and that's a voice and the MOE of public services and the maintenance, therefore, of. And quite frankly, it's confusing to me because people, well, they don't know what freedom looks like, I don't think. This is freedom. This is a part of freedom. But trying to communicate to somebody who's never experienced this free thought, it's real. The real deal is that we, the American people, our voices need to be heard in the MOE of public services nationwide, local cities, towns, states, and the obligation to ensure that full citizenship is experienced and that people are participating in the process after, the process of after you've received all those wonderful services from birth to 21, basically. Because at a certain age, you get to vote. You become a responsible voter as the public services continue to dole down. And, in our nation is all about the quality of life and liberty and the pursuit of happiness. And believe me, boo, you can be happy in your box. You don't even have to. You don't even have to engage or participate in anything in life. And you could just pretend that public policy perhaps doesn't happen. And you don't understand how it affects people who look like you. But the real deal, the real reality, the trick is that how do we continue this system of services and not apply it to everyone? The quality of life that would be, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, true happiness. And what is happiness? Yeah, clap along if you feel like a room without a roof. Come on now. And it's kind of like, what's going on? All these subtle notes of awakening. And are you awake yet? As the revolution is not being televised, but it's happening. The revolution happened and we all witnessed it. What did that insurrection look like to you when those same senators on the floor could not determine the MOE for the investment in entertainment capital? As a lot of our Black actors got straight payments for services rendered that made millions and billions for others who, paid. But there should be some residual responsibility for the benefit. I mean, if you make some money for somebody's stuff, you should be sharing the wealth, right? I don't know. But this is America. And until we determine what we're going to do to ensure that access happens for all children, as this is a nation that should be measured by one nation under God, indivisible, and liberty and justice for all people. Well, where's your liberty and justice if you have to witness people like George Floyd and Ahmaud Arbery, and what about that murder of Philando Castile? And what about that young man that got stabbed and shot in the back by all those law enforcement officers? And what was that young man supposed to be doing if he was trying to get in the car? He wasn't going to harm his children. I don't believe that was a concern. And just the mere ability to control one's bodily behaviors. If they're not attacking you, why are you so afraid in managing behavior to control ultimately every movement of someone who you would want to restrain? Because you lack the communication skills to effectively engage with the person that you want to oversee. And if this is not the plantation, then please explain to me, what does the plantation look like to you? As the troubling features and the stress lines continue to grow on my face, this is America. America, where one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all, comes from each one, reach one, teach one. And I'm telling you, in 2021, for public schools and public services, failure is not an option. Not when in 2004 and under IDEA 2004, but quite frankly, under the Department of Education, which provides dollars and resources to support and sustain the people as we pay dollars and resources under the count of the census. Understand the government, boo. Step your game up. Elected locally to represent nationally, but the MOE for the services in your community. But if you have far too many homeless and your voices are not being heard, and you don't know how to navigate this process of the democracy, then freedom what will freedom ever look like to you? Reality check 2021. Will issue locally, nationally, globally. We have to talk about the effects of the human population on the world that's known locally. We have to talk about behaviors of children or people, or human beings who have not been given equal footing, equal access to the free and appropriate, whatever opportunity to engage. I mean, if you don't educate a person, how do you think that's supposed to look? What does that look like to you? An undereducated person who probably wasn't reading in the 8th grade and just decided to stop coming to school to be embarrassed. I mean, but the mental health objectives and all the things that go on with human population, when people are not given the opportunity to thrive, that is. But when other people are given the opportunity to produce those opportunities, and they have no evidence that they're even working, boo. What a joke. You want to pay all these people out of the federal dollars allocated to support children in poverty and families in poverty, and people who would generate additional federal support and aid for your state. And then you hold yourself no accountability, just zero. And then you would allow people to write out a plan to 2024. But what's today? 2021. We finally made it. But oh no, you want to write a plan to 2024? Well, we'll be waiting till the year 2025 for it to arrive. Because ain't nothing. And I just don't understand how they have allocated these resources, simply because, a lot of dollars flow down through the Department of Health and Human Services But the MOE for that is null or nothing. It's not their obligation. Well, whose obligation it is? Does that belong to you, boo? You, taxpayer. You who expect the services to drift down to your local community, and you can't talk about what's really happening. I'm sorry. As an American citizen, you have that obligation. Step your game up. And if people are negotiating around new rules and new regulation, well, where are you, boo? Where's your voice? Lift every voice and sing, huh? Because that's the only way freedom's going to reign. You know what I'm saying? So we have to stand up in unity. Otherwise, we will have no liberty in America in 2021. So, as far as there is a leadership conference going on, I don't know how it's going to be established. I believe that every voice should be heard, but I believe that people who wield the power of engaging in the entertainment field need to understand that the support and the conversation for the MOE needs to come from the people who are most impacted, who perhaps have not had access to those limited resources that exist as we all pay for. And we just, let's not pretend that America is not America. Let's not pretend that bing, 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 human capital was not the object of the creation of the internet. And as we all like things and things are relevant, I like to get things at, the most advantageous price to myself, really. But I mean, I love this ability to communicate and reach out to people. And even if you don't like who I am, get a grip, boo. There will be a lot of people out there that you probably don't like, but you don't have to listen. But there are opportunities that are out there that I understand my people do not take advantage of, as they are unaware that failure of public services is an unacceptable MOE, and that when we pay people out of federal allocations, we expect some level of the maintenance effort. And when you look at public services like public education systems and homeless outreach and public human services, understand there has to be the capacity for the people to engage who understand what the possibilities of the concepts or, the vision would be. But as it stands now, there are a lot of people who like to do good, who like to be recognized for their good works. But good works are limited and far few, as so many people are depending on services that cannot continue to be maintained without a level of investment. As you can't just keep on giving out free stuff, because when the free stuff ends and people don't qualify for the free stuff anymore, well, they're going to take it. Because do you accept? I mean, is that something that's understandable? That even in education, these children and these families are struggling to make it. But there are a lot of people that are providing services to these children, these families. But these families and these children are struggling to make it. But if they don't make it, you people just want to keep on giving them services. Well, there comes a time when those services run out. And when they run out, people still want to have those same things that you've been giving them all along freely, But when they can't figure it out, well, people will take a risk. And risks are relative. Most likely, a lot of people plan on not getting caught for so long. But then when they do get caught, there's a consequence to pay. But let's understand the system we've created is so unequal that has no justice in the grand jury process, as there was no justice in the slavery process, as there was no justice in the punishment or the arrangement with states to pay southern states for their runaway slaves, as the states continue to get resources that should be shared down to the human population, but somehow never trickle down there because everybody's living on the hill in Sunderland and Anthem and wherever they live, and they're in their capacity as administration over public services that are failing the community. How's that? Because we're paying. And when we have to pay for oversight of law enforcement with hoping that judgment is right, but then when someone would take your life versus allowing you to have freedom of expression because perhaps somebody is freely, over engaged or don't have the, I mean, everybody, we're human beings. So all human beings do not communicate effectively, and all human beings do not process information in the same manner as each and every one of us do. And each one of us have a different vision, and each one of us think differently about commitment and relationships and all of that. But we're blessed to be individual and independent thought. And as an American citizen, I would encourage you to not let your child receive letter grades, well, not for public schools, and understand that this is a nation of we. So we, the people, our voices have to be heard in the MOE, that's the maintenance of effort, of the opportunities provided to our children as the system is failing Black children nationwide, as the perception of Black people is limited in their ability to manage in their own communities as they were always oppressed, always and forever, just oppressed. So here we are, 2021, and I'm going to pause and see if I can write something on the screen here. So I was looking for something to write with on this program. Is supposed to offer that, but I don't see it right now. But I'm going to tell you, in the year of 2121, as we all witness what we witnessed at the Capitol, and we all just need to understand that in a nation such as this is America, and in America, you have to plan ahead, and we've not all had the ability to plan ahead simply because, people have been continuing to benefit from the plantation mentality that America runs as, compliance is everything. In public school system, compliance is real. Only the rules are real, but the opportunity to learn and transition from the rules or the process is real. And before they can push you out, they have to assess and determine your ability so that wherever they place you, that they can provide services. But boo, if they ain't providing you nothing, I mean, if you're not learning how to read and write and communicate effectively and be understanding that creating these options to advance oneself is continual, and we live on a nation that is considered lifetime opportunities. The royalties from benefiting and engaging was understanding, like, how did Nipsey do it? Nipsey figured it out. He was mandated to participate, a young man, in the public education system, as so many of our young men are. But so many of our children are struggling with the inability to provide any emotional support, any academic support, as we are written out of the benefit, or just written out of the ability to engage and understand the process of the allocation of services, because we're denied even working in our local communities, as we are not the ones hired, because we're not the ones hiring. And it's not that I'm looking for a job, because guess what? Boo, I don't need a job. I tell my mama, taking care of her, and my son, taking care of him as, you know, we age and continue to age. We have to understand that the process of the public services in the sector that we live under and the system that we live under represents us equally in the maintaining a significant benefit from the investment in our community. And as it stands, I mean, I think America really never got over the free labor concept because, you know, that's what slavery was all about. Free labor, capital, building, building millionaires. And there are a lot of people that have the ability to reach for the dollars that would enable them to live that champagne life. You know what champagne life is? And some people are just living that champagne life, like Snoop and everybody that you know the names of that have the ability to have influence and engage. Well, they're living the champagne life. And what does that mean? That means that they're not struggling like you are, and they can engage in society. But if you don't have the ability to communicate effectively, and you don't understand what that looks like, you don't know how to advocate for your children, and you've allowed the system to continue to underfund whole communities across this nation as we have not demanded a level of maintenance of effort for the real investment. I mean, come on now, this is not a game anymore. We all pay taxes. But when we got to learn that Donald Trump only paid perhaps $750, it's not a game anymore, especially when he didn't want to get out of office, that he would incite an insurrection. I mean, incite people who who want to continue with their same behavior is reality. And that's just real. So I'm going to sign off for now. This is Darlene Anderson. Follow me on Anchor, on YouTube, on Instagram. And until we meet again, understand it's you, boo. You're looking for you. So every voice has to be heard in the MOE, maintenance of effort of the outcomes of public services in America.